So now that we've talked about concentration, we need to discuss dilution. Often a solution is more concentrated than we want it to be, so we can dilute or water down that solution. This is a topic that you've used before, you know about this. Diluting is just watering something down, essentially, or adding some solvent in order to make it less concentrated. So to dilute a solution, all we're going to do is add water, or whatever other solvent we're using, typically water, until the desired concentration is reached. How do you know that you've added enough? That's the main question that comes with dilution. And wouldn't you believe it, there's an equation for it. So our dilution equation is really pretty simple. M1V1 equals M2V2. So M is molarity, and V is volume. And the 1 and the 2 just stand for initial and final. So 1 is initial, 2 is final. So we're going to take the initial molarity times the initial volume, and that equals the final molarity times the final volume. If we simplify this, our units here for molarity are moles over liters, and we're going to multiply that by the volume, which is in liters. And we have moles over liters times liters. This would be M1, V1, M2, V2. If we cancel our units here, we're going to be left with moles equals moles, which is true. We're not adding any solute. We're not adding any of the stuff that we're trying to dilute. So what we're saying here is that the moles that we have at the beginning is going to be equal to the number of moles that we have at the end. All we're going to add is water to make the solution more watered down. So if I do a dilution question, and this is typically what these would look like, this is something you're going to use when you're watering down an acid or something that you need to make the correct concentration, usually to make it less concentrated. The maximum concentration for sulfuric acid, this is the stuff that's in the big blue cabinet in the back, is 18 molar. Okay, and that's a molarity. If I want to make 1 liter of 1 molar sulfuric acid, how much of the concentrated acid should I use? Okay, so we've got M1 V1 equals M2 V2. My M1 here is 18 molar. I don't know how much of the concentrated acid I need to use. My M2 is 1 molar, and my V2 is 1 liter. Okay, and with significant figures, there would be some added numbers here, but it's 1. To solve this, this is always a one-step solve, which makes this really easy. We're going to multiply out one side. 1 times 1 is always 1. And then we're going to divide by our 18 molar. No matter what we're solving for here, it's going to be a one-step solve. We're going to have one process that we use to get our variable by itself. And when I take 1 divided by 18, I get 0.055 repeating, or 556 liters, which would be the same as 55.6 milliliters. So if you think about one of those tall volumetric flasks that you've seen me use with the cork in it at the top, and it's got a little line right here, that's a 1 liter flask. I would put 50 milliliters of acid in there, 55.6 milliliters to be exact, and the rest of it is going to be water. So in 1,000 milliliters of water, I'm going to have 55.6 milliliters of acid. And there's our answer. That about covers dilution. There's not homework on this, but it is something that we'll use a couple different times in the lab, and so I wanted to make sure that we covered that on a short video here. 2 other questions for you to try. I want you to pause the video and try these now, and I'll wait about 5 seconds and I'll put the answers up for you so that you can see those. This will be your homework or your practice session, and then we'll be done. Go ahead and pause the video now and give these a shot. And here are the answers and the work for both of those questions. I'll be back tomorrow and we can work on these a little bit more if you need to, but I think most of you should pick that up fairly quickly.